Hi guys, Thomas here. So here I have a 5-minute web app that I created in 5 minutes using Aista Magic class. Now, in this video, I want to walk you through the app and explain the relationship between the app, the backend, the frontend, and the database, and hopefully teach you how you can create such apps yourselves. First, I'm going to log in and then I'm going to show you the users component, which allows you to create new users, and then I can, associate this user with a role or several roles if I want to, close, and I can edit the user and I can delete the user. Now, however, this is like a static component that comes with all generated front-end apps, allowing you to easily administer your users. So you see fits, and it's only accessible for people having access to actually create and edit users. So let's look at the categories, because categories has an interesting trait. It has a picture here. You can see all categories have different pictures. I can edit this picture. I can remove it if I want to, and I can upload a new picture if I want to. Let me create a screenshot just to have a picture to use here, and I can save it as I see fit. Now, the interesting part about this is that the picture is actually automatically resized according to your needs to avoid, for instance, uploading 4 megabyte large files from your iPhone, etc., etc. Another interesting fact here is that you see this one is a text area, allowing me to write multiple lines of code, while this is a single text input. Now, to understand why, you must realize that when I CRUDified my database, if you go back to Magic Dashboard, you open up Tools, you open up the CRUD Generator, and you choose your database, then when I CRUDified the categories table, then I found the description here, and I chose handling. Handling is a new feature allowing you to specify how you want to handle a field. If I choose long text here, before I click CRUDify all tables or CRUDify this table, I end up with a text field here, right? So that's the relationship between a backend CRUD API generator and how the front end ends up looking. And we have all of these different types of handlings. We have image, which ends up like this. And we have a file, which is a file upload, allowing you to associate files with database entities. We have email, show you email here. If we go to, I think it's in suppliers, I'm not entirely sure, maybe it's in customers. It doesn't matter. It ends up similarly to the phone link, except instead of being a phone link. Now, if I was on a phone and I click this link now, then my phone would automatically call this phone number. We have similar features for email, which means if this was an email type of link, I could click the link and automatically it would start my email client. Now, and we have all of these different types. We have URLs, we have YouTube, which will embed YouTube videos. We have images and long text and etc. And I can also lock a field, which is useful if, for instance, there's a table that contains data where only that particular, where each record in that table belongs to a user. I can use, for instance, if I added a field here now, let's go to SQL Studio and choose this Northwind and create a new field called username, and I can choose data type text, and I can create it, and I can go back to my CRUDifier now, and I can choose this guy, Northwind, and categories, and now all of a sudden you see username is actually by default locked to username. I can turn this off if I want to. However, as long as it's locked to my currently authenticated username, that means nobody can access my records. It means that everything I, as a user, insert into this table becomes my private records. Only I can update them, only I can delete them, And when I create new items, items are automatically associated with my users and nobody else can see my items. So this is how to lock a field towards your username. Another thing is if we start out at the top here, so you see I've selected my database type, my connection string, and my database name, right? And then I've selected one table. If I select a different table here, then I'm allowed to configure individual tables as I see fit. Now, if I now go down to, for instance, last name, and I expand that under employees, then you see these checkboxes. They allow me to turn on or off this field on specific CRUD verbs. CRUD is a verb and it means create, read, update, and delete. So these are 4 verbs that I can do towards this particular database. Now, if I want to turn off completely update, let's say employees is a table that I don't want to have anybody being allowed to update records in whatsoever, then ta-da, no update. Let's say I want to turn off delete, okay? Ta-da, no delete. Nobody can delete records from this table now because the API endpoint to delete records simply doesn't exist. And I can also turn off CRUD verbs on specific columns. If I don't want last name to be possible to update, okay? Now there's no update, there's no last name variable or field in the update CRUD endpoint. So this allows me to configure the CRUDifier, and this again ends up changing the way my front end looks like. If I now go to customers, if I had removed a contact name from update now, then this text input simply wouldn't exist. However, it would still exist on the create, assuming I don't remove it from the create verb too, but it would not exist as I'm updating my records. So that's a breakdown of the basics of the CRUD generator. Now let's have a look at SQL Studio, because that's where everything starts. Now the whole point about Magic is that it looks at your database as a formal specification. So if I choose my database here, the structure of my database becomes a formal specification for the CRUD API generator. Then the CRUD API generated by the CRUD API becomes a formal specification for the front end. Now this allows me to simply edit my database. If I want to, I can create a new database. I can call it CRM, right? And I can now start adding tables to my CRM database, and I can start adding records to, fields to my customers table as I see fit. Add field, for instance, created, data type, timestamp. I wanted to have the default value of current timestamp, create, etc. This implies that the date and time for the created will always be the date and time that I created this particular customer. Then I can add field, email, data type, text, create, etc. And if you don't understand what these field types actually are, then as of the latest version, which we released yesterday, you can actually see a fairly good description of the different types and what they imply, such as, for instance, okay, numeric is a real number with fixed amounts of decimals, integer is a whole number, timestamp is date time, etc., etc. I can use text types here now, for instance. And then I can go to the CRUD generator, I can choose my database, I can configure the table, and then I can make sure that it is, let me see, SQL Studio, CRM, phone, let me create another one called image, data type, text, create, and then let me create another one called file, data type, text, and then go back to the CRUD generator, and then choose my database, CRM, configure my table, and now you will see that image here is automatically by default handled as an image. Why? Because its name is image. File is automatically by default handled as a file. Why? Because its name is file. I can of course turn this off if I want to. However, probably my requirements was that I wanted to upload files into this particular field. So that is the relationship between SQL Studio, the CRUD generator, and the front generator. And of course, when I'm done generating my backend, then, you know, generating my front end is ridiculously simple. It basically just, you know, implies choosing a color, because all the choices have at this point been done automatically for me as I generated my CRUD API. And of course, if I'm not happy with this, right, if I want to change this, it's just Angular code, right? So if you know Angular, you can go here into Aista Magic Cloud, you go into Hyper ID, expand, etc., frontend and source, and you literally download this folder. You can unzip it, and you can edit it as pure Angular code. There's nothing magical about this code. It's just pure Angular code using material tables and, you know, datetime pickers and etc., etc. So that is the relationship between, first of all, the SQL database designer, the CRUD generator for your backend, frontend generator for your frontend. And of course, when you are done generating your frontend, then what's happening when you go to Hub, Aista Hub, to deploy this? Let me show you. Then when you deploy your front-end, then let me just delete this guy to illustrate what's actually happening. This is my front-end. I'm deleting now. If I now go here and refresh, it's gone. It's destroyed, right? Now, when I create a new Angular front-end, I'm choosing a backend, right? Because the front-end is sequentially built on top of the backend, obviously. So what is happening here is that our internal Kubernetes cluster reaches out into this folder here in my backend and compile this code and deploys it into our CDN network and all that stuff. So anyways, that was it for today's video. There's a link in the description of this YouTube video to where you can sign up for Aista Magic Cloud if you haven't already tried it. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.